The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. My name is Mike, here with Sam. How are you doing, Sam?
Hello, everyone. I'm okay. I'm good. A couple of hard losses for the Suns. Just really frustrating. I was, of course, at the Toronto game a couple nights ago. Had to watch them lose on the second night of a back-to-back. Then into tonight's loss against Boston, where, again, they very briefly had a fourth quarter lead, could not hold on to it. These are tough opponents, and it's hard to close games on the road, right? Just as a general rule. But still, when you have it, or you feel like, in both of these games they were competitive, they had a lead in the fourth quarter, to let multiple games slip away like that in a row is tough. And then another. We're recording after the Boston game here, but they do have another back-to-back tomorrow against Minnesota.
Rough. And we knew this portion of the schedule was going to be difficult. We talked about the importance of beating Milwaukee and Indiana, which they did, the beginning of the road trip. They also beat Charlotte, New Orleans. Before that, had a 4-game win streak going into the Toronto game. And look, Toronto, second night of a back-to-back, they fell apart in the fourth quarter. You can kind of go, well, second night of a back-to-back, the legs start getting heavy in the fourth quarter. You could see that happening. Same thing against Boston, though. And I think Boston is a really good team. Like, Boston's really good, especially they're getting something out of Tatum now.
Really frustrates me how good they are, given what their talent is on paper.
Well, I mean, they're kind of Suns. They're kind of Suns-like, except
100%.
with more talent. They play hard, and I think when you watch them play, you really appreciate the coaching in the way that when the ball goes up, everyone boxes out. There's no rebounds that the Celtics aren't locked in on getting. They're really physical defensively in a way that ultimately can be kind of frustrating, like Peyton Pritchard being allowed to be as physical as he is on Devin Booker. That only comes after a whole season of doing that. Like, you have to be consistent with that kind of pressure and physicality defensively in order to get away with it in a game like this. And you just appreciate the coaching in that way. They also take a ton of threes like the Suns, and they play really hard on the offensive rebounds just like the Suns. In fact, in this game, I think if the Suns had secured a couple more offensive rebounds, it could have swung the game, but the Celtics were just on top of that. But Devin Booker was great. I mean, we should start there. He had 40 points. Didn't do much in the fourth quarter as well, but the whole team kind of couldn't score around him throughout the game. You look at the starting lineup, 6 points, 4 points, and 3 points. That's 3 of the starters had 6 points or less. Jalen Green finished with 21. Not a great Jalen Green game, though, and we can talk a little bit about it. And then the other guy that actually was really good outside of Devin Booker and deserves a lot of credit, and I was really hoping we can come onto this podcast and really give him a lot of praise for the Suns finding a way to beat a contender like this, was Haywood Highsmith, who came off the bench in 19 minutes, had 16 points, and played really tough defense on multiple players throughout the game. I just thought he was excellent, and it has proven to just be really important for the Suns on this road trip so far.
Yeah, Haywood Highsmith was one of the only guys who in this game felt like was 100% committed to that mission of winning the possession battle, right? He was getting on guys defensively, generated a couple of extra steals, a couple of offensive rebounds in the fourth quarter, and then, of course, went 4 for 5 from deep, and that's just a complete game changer in terms of his ability to play over some other guys at the wing position. So Haywood Highsmith's a really smart player. I'm happy to see him excel. He played 19 minutes in this game. Royce O'Neal only played 19 minutes, so I think there's a reason behind that, and I wouldn't be surprised if kind of as we go on, Royce is phased out just a little bit and Highsmith is phased in a little bit. I don't know if the goal is ever for either of those guys to start, because ultimately Dillon Brooks is supposed to be back in a handful of weeks. But Highsmith is just a really good guy to have who can come in. I will say, though, like for 3 quarters out of this game, I was just intensely sort of feeling that, and there's nothing they can do about it, but they are so small all the time. And Jalen Green and Devin Booker, for them to play together, they're so cohesive now offensively. We should have a Jalen Green conversation, too, because he largely had an excellent week. Jalen Green and Devin Booker are so cohesive offensively now. But the guys you put around them, there are going to be some defensive mistakes, and largely in some of the games recently, they just don't have the size to make up for it anymore, like they did maybe in months prior. The rebounding that Mark Williams brings, some of the toughness and energy from Dylan Brooks. I know they're still sort of looking for like a long-term solution at power forward who can bring some extra size. Maybe Rasheer Fleming is that eventually. But it's like, for as scrappy as Jordan Goodwin and Haywood Highsmith and all the rest of these guys are, Oso Ighodaro at center, they really just cannot. When there are defensive mistakes right now, they don't have the size to fill in the gaps the same way. And it's preventing their ability to win the possession battle like they were in the first few months of the season, which like really became their MO. It became kind of their identity. So it's difficult. But Book and Jalen Green can be really, really good. At the end of the day, though, we kind of know that this team's half-court offense has a ceiling. And so they need to win games with their defense, and it's proving to be pretty difficult at the moment.
If you, had me look at this road trip and then said, we win these first 2 games, drop the 2 middle games so far, right? And then, Minnesota is what it is. Second night of a back-to-back, and it's going to be in Minnesota. No Anthony Edwards from what I'm heard so far, helpful, but I would look at that and say that's relatively acceptable. The Suns are on a long road trip. They're missing some guys, and they're sort of struggling with a gap of talent right now. They need more talent on the floor to really win these games. But I think what made the last 2 games really frustrating was that both of them were winnable. They were both games where they were really in it at the end of the game, and the execution in the fourth quarter is what lost the game. And it's on everyone, ultimately. Like, maybe there's some personnel stuff that could change. There was a moment, in fact, and this did happen eventually, but there was a moment early on in the third quarter where Peyton Pritchard had a cut, like a split cut style layup right from the top of the key to the middle of the floor. And I thought, I wonder if we'll see Royce O'Neal again for the rest of the game, because he just wasn't very good defensively throughout this game. They came back with Royce O'Neal, and then he played another 4 or 5 minutes for the rest of the game probably, and then eventually did sit in favor of Haywood Highsmith. Stuff like that I think could change. Maybe guys could get pulled or whatever a little earlier, a little later in these games. Maybe Devin Booker came back even a little too early. I know they kind of needed him, but he also was a little spent by the end of that fourth quarter. But the players on the court are the guys that really need to execute. And I think what's tough in this Celtics game, Devin Booker was so great and had such an awesome stretch at the end of the second quarter and then the whole third quarter. But the fact that nobody else could get something going meant that once he left in that fourth quarter, there was just no more rhythm to the offense because of what he needed to do in order to get them to score.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to the Toronto game, too. That was a game where Booker, I mean, he certainly made passes, tried to get other guys going, but I believe he finished that game with 0 assists. Again, it does come down to personnel. You can't have this conversation without talking about personnel because Jalen Green, again, has been excellent. There will be like a third guy who steps up in most games. Tonight, that was Haywood Highsmith against Toronto. Did anyone... I guess it was Grayson Allen, maybe, had a bunch of free throws.
Points,
often Grayson will score. No one's getting in the paint, though. And again, this is, again, I've said this a couple times, but this is the value of Mark Williams. It continues to be the value of Mark Williams.
Yeah.
No one on this team really gets in the paint. And so when those doubles and triples come at Booker, credit to Oso Ighodaro for having 8 assists tonight. Like, obviously, he was very focused on moving the ball side to side. And had a very difficult task of having to keep Nemish Keita off the boards like all night long, a guy who's much bigger than him, having to play 30-plus minutes in a role that he's not necessarily accustomed to. Like, Oso is handling a lot on his shoulders, but just not providing a ton offensively, and that really makes the workload very difficult for Booker and Jalen. And again, in my opinion, just like leads to this inevitable fourth quarter kind of slow as molasses offense where everything else grinds to a halt, and you just kind of got to put the ball in the hands of one of those guys and pray, because the rest of your offense hasn't really been geared towards either getting these guys involved, or they literally can't get themselves involved. Like, they're not talented enough. So you know, those are the big existential problems with the Suns right now. They are clearly a good team. They are clearly capable of beating bad teams. And against other good teams on the road, they're going to lose most of those games, right?
Yeah,
They'll win some, but they will lose most of those games. I will say... Go ahead.
I just don't want to undersell like how important Dillon Brooks has been for this team too. This game in particular, if Colin Gillespie just disappears, which he has for 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
He didn't score at all for the first time in almost a year in the Toronto game, and only 1 for 8 in this game. And he takes a lot of difficult shots, and you know, like, you look at the way Royce O'Neal plays, who also takes a lot of difficult shots, and sometimes you just go 0 for 5, 0 for 7 or whatever, and then the next game you make 6 or 7 of them or whatever. And that hasn't happened with Colin in the last 2 games, but there's some grace given there with just how good he's been, consistent he's been all season. You know, going this cold right after we covered how he is close to some interesting records really is unfortunate. But if he's going to disappear, and Jalen Green, look, he can do stuff almost entirely for himself. Has had some good passing games this season, but most of the time has more turnovers than he has assists.
It's more so for himself. But yeah.
And the fact that, like, in this particular game, they just needed another person who could create a shot. And Dillon Brooks, like, maybe not the most efficient guy overall all season for the amount of points that he's scored, but, you know, most of the time was more efficient when he was playing with Devin Booker than without him, when he was relied on to do everything offensively. Would have been really helpful in this game for multiple reasons. Obviously, another big body to throw at guys like Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, really Jaylen Brown, but also the ability to throw the ball to him with 6 seconds left on the shot clock, and he has the ability so far this season to create space and get a relatively open shot in a way that works for him throughout the entire season. That would have been really, really helpful in this game.
They either need that or one other thing. So either they need the third guy who can create a shot, and Dillon Brooks is that, or they lean back into size and actually have a guy who Jordan Knott trusts enough, who is also big, to be out there in the closing minutes. If Rasheer Fleming played 30 minutes a game and was getting 4 offensive rebounds per 36 or whatever, you know, that can swing the math. That's the type of thing that can swing the math. If Kaman Malawach was trusted to play kind of at all, he played 4 minutes against Toronto and then went out early, and that was a game where, again, I saw it up close and personal. Rasheer Fleming was really leaned on heavily to play a lot of small ball minutes there. I don't necessarily think that was the right decision, but that was Ott's decision. You know, he played 4 minutes against Toronto, and then tonight I think he played 12 minutes. And I understand why the trust is not there. But if Malawach can evolve into that player where he can swing the math by hitting the offensive glass or you know, being just a pick and roll threat, a lob threat in general, then, you know, that could be a difference maker as well. But right now they have limited perimeter creators and are also small, which is just putting yourself at a disadvantage every game that's kind of hard to claw yourself out of.
Yeah, you know, especially stylistically with the style that they play, crashing the glass and being like overly aggressive defensively. Size would help with that, you know. And
yeah, it's not to take anything away from. No, they definitely do. It's not to take anything away from guys who I think all season long have been great. Jordan Goodwin's been great at this. Haywood Highsmith has come in; he's been great at this. Amir Coffey has played limited minutes, but he's hit the boards really well. But like, these guys aren't power forwards. They shouldn't have to be power forwards, and it's a little bit difficult.
Yeah, and I actually think the Suns' sort of strategy of just sort of looking at what was available to them in the offseason and throughout the season, because they've made a lot of good in-season moves, and saying, okay, we can't add size. Hardest thing to add is size plus skill, right? We've talked about that a lot on this podcast. And just sort of understanding that, okay, we're going to have to get smaller guys. How are we going to do that? Just filling out the roster with a bunch of dogs, even though they're small, has really helped them to beat a lot of teams, especially the bad teams in the NBA so far this season. Anytime they go up against a great team like this, though, you feel some of those deficiencies, especially if they're not fully healthy. Both Mark Williams and Dillon Brooks would have been very helpful in this game, especially with the Celtics having Tatum back. You know, it's a different story if he's not, but Tatum was pretty good in this game. I'm grateful Devin Booker was good, just, you know, because I know Bill Simmons was watching.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Bill Simmons hasn't said anything crazy about Devin Booker recently, as far as I know. Has he?
No, I don't think so. Book did have 7 turnovers. I did, want to point that out. But
yeah, sure.
I think what was really tough is once they really started throwing 2 or 3 guys at him in that fourth quarter.
Yeah. Well, I think, first of all, it goes without saying the fourth quarter officiating was a little bit egregious. Jaylen Brown had 21 free throw attempts in this game. Mm-hmm. That being said, though, how you respond to the officiating matters. And going back to the Toronto game, too, right? Like, this has always been Booker's weakness, is that he gets frustrated at a lack of calls and it affects his play. And we saw it, I think, against Toronto, the frustration, and we saw it a little bit here against Boston, too, with the frustration boiling over. Didn't get any texts or anything, but it's sometimes easy to get into his head, and then when the roster doesn't have other options that it can go to, that's difficult. Jalen Green, I do want to talk about some of the positive stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't have the stats including tonight, so these averages just assume they go down a little bit. But in the 5 games before tonight, Jalen Green was averaging 29 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists a game on 51 from the field, 39 from deep, and 77 from the free throw line. So Jalen Green is here. And he was good again tonight, much better in the first half than in the second half, but another good game, I thought, for Jalen Green. He has arrived. His efficiency is rising. Do you have any thoughts on Jalen Green's play over the last week?
It's interesting. I wouldn't have described this game as good. I think he has become much, much more efficient because he was really, truly awful efficiency-wise in his first 10 or so games that he played this season outside of 1 or 2. But has become a lot more efficient. But his decision-making at times is just so frustrating. And maybe it's just how I view the game, but it does often overshadow some of his ability to hit difficult shots for me. Because some of those decisions can be so baffling that the turnovers are loud or the missed shots are loud in a way that sort of can be frustrating as a viewer.
But he only had 1 turnover tonight.
Yes, and I do think that his ability to hit off-ball threes, which of course he didn't do tonight, he was 1 for 7 from 3 tonight, has come alive a little bit in the last few games, specifically on this road trip and maybe the 1 or 2 games before it. And that's really, really helpful for this team because it was bad before that. And for him to play with Devin Booker, he has to be able to score on and off the ball. I still think the ball sticks a little bit too much with him when he gets into his sort of ISO mode, but I do think the Suns have worked in better options for him on the move, whether it be like on any of those sort of zoom actions where he's flying out of the corner around screens. And I do think the chemistry is getting better with guys like Oso Ighodaro, where he gets stuck on a single 1 or 2 dribble moves, and then he just pitches it to Oso, and then full sprints into the catch off of the handoff, and then he's got an extra step in front of the guy because he's so fast. He did get a good dunk tonight. He's been hunting posters, doing a little bit of poster hunting. Not quite a poster tonight, but had a really good dunk.
A really good dunk tonight. I will say, Scotty Barnes sucked the life out of him to basically close out the game against Toronto.
We need to talk about that, yeah.
And
what do you think about that, in being there in the building surrounded by Canadians?
I was interesting. So I think I spoke about my experience. I always speak about my experience going often to games. I'm from New York City. Going to games in New York City, most often at the Barclays Center, where there basically is no local culture. And so 6 weeks ago for Martin Luther King Day or whenever that was, I was at the Suns' win against the Nets, when I joked about, and it was the case again, you go to those games, like every other person is in a Suns jersey, you basically feel like you're at home. No one gives you any shit, and you just kick the Nets' ass and then drink a couple beers and leave. Toronto is not like that. Scotiabank Arena is not like that, and I will credit Raptors fans for being that way. It's almost nice to be in the presence of like an actual passionate fan base. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it'd be the same way for anyone who's a Boston Suns fan who is at TD Garden tonight. But there were very few Suns fans, except for me and my friend who I went with, who both are Suns fans, in that Raptors game. We were viciously heckled all night long by three guys with the thickest Canadian accents you ever could imagine behind us. At first, what were they saying?
Yeah.
Well, at first they thought we were Canadians, so it's a bit of a tense thing. Oh, I have a whole thing that I could say. Did you know? I don't know if there are any Canadians listening.
I'm sure there are.
You know what? Actually, okay. Some of this stuff, I'm sorry, I wouldn't normally do this. Some of this stuff is sensitive material. I'm gonna have to save it for the Patreon podcast this week because it's some political stuff about Canadian and American relations at the moment. So just know that we're shelving a little bit of it. But I'm sorry. I normally hate to do that, but these three guys, like people from Toronto, sound like Canadians. Obviously, they say sorry and whatever, but these three guys. Yeah, these three guys were from Calgary after they introduced themselves to us. And it was like immediately apparent because these were not normal. These were not metropolitan Torontonians or whatever. These were like three dudes out of Trailer Park Boys who were talking shit behind us. And that's what made the fourth quarter comeback so frustrating for me personally because I had to hear... Yeah, they were in our ear the entire time, dude. I had to hear it every single time. And the Scotty Barnes block, to come back to why we started this conversation initially, on Jalen Green when he got into the paint, which credit to him, he tried to get into the paint with like 1 minute left, but Scotty eviscerated that shit off the backboard, and game was over, and I had to be the guy to leave a little bit early to try and beat the traffic out of the arena, unfortunately.
If you care about coffee and how it's made, check out Alchemy Roast. They roast in small batches and source their beans responsibly, focusing on flavor instead of mass production. The result is coffee that's balanced, well-developed, and easy to drink, whether you brew at home every day or just want something better than grocery store coffee. You can order online at alchemyroaster.com, and if you use the promo code TIMELINE at checkout, you'll get 10% off your order. Go now to alchemyroaster.com, my favorite coffee, and use the promo code TIMELINE at checkout. Get 10% off, support a local Phoenix business, and get the best coffee you can buy.
Shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right, Prize Picks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, and every board that much more exciting. So don't miss this chance to get started on America's #1 app for sports picks. I love that Prize Picks offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Do you want to pick more on Anthony Edwards' points, 3-pointers, and assists? Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup, only on Prize Picks. So go ahead and download the Prize Picks app today and use code BLUEWIRE to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code BLUEWIRE to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it is good to be right.
Today's show is sponsored by Strawberry.me. Let me ask you something. Do you think championship athletes got to the top by guessing? No, they had coaching. Every elite athlete has a coach watching their form, calling the plays, and spotting the blind spots they can't see themselves. That's how championships are won. So why are you trying to win your career without a coach? You're grinding, hoping for the promotion, trying to read the politics, guessing your next move. That's amateur hour. If you want to perform like a pro, you need coaching. Strawberry.me matches you with a professional career coach who breaks down your game film. They help you negotiate the raise, navigate workplace politics, and execute a strategy that actually works. Stop riding the bench in your own life. Go to strawberry.me/podcast50 to get 50% off your first coaching session. Strawberry.me, Because pros don't guess, they get coached to win.
I'm Team Dunk. You know, if you can dunk it, you should dunk it. It's fun. I do think that they have like an actual impact on momentum, so I'm not going to get too mad at it.
Are you Team Dunk in that sort of situation of like it's the end of game, you need this to go in?
Maybe you don't need to cock it all the way back. Like
two-hand dunk,
yeah.
right? In that situation, two-hand dunk, protect it, make sure it goes in the basket. I think.
Yeah, but if you could throw it down, it was a two-hand dunk, by the way. Back scratcher, as they call it. He just cocked it all the way back onto his back, and then that's what gave Scotty Barnes the lane to really block it. You can't put the ball behind you when the defense is behind you. You got to keep it in front of you. He could have dunked it that way too. I say this as someone who's obviously an expert in dunks and dunks all the time. So obviously I know what I'm talking about here. Now, you look, Jalen Green, I think he deserves credit for playing a lot better. He is playing a lot better than he was. I do think his effort has been up defensively throughout the season. I think he's had some more defensive struggles lately than he did previously, but the offense is coming together a lot better. And I just think the Suns have not fully clicked since he started to play. And part of that is just not being healthy, so it's no fault of his. But I do think they need to find ways to work it in. I also think it hurts that Colin Gillespie struggled. Oso Ighodaro has also struggled recently, and I think he had a pretty good game today, but he can't really do much lately. And, those types of things are not on Jalen Green, but the team has sort of struggled since he started to play outside of, playing some bad teams in New Orleans, Milwaukee, Indiana.
Oso will give you that one, just full speed ahead drive at a guy every 40 minutes now. And you're like, oh my God, look, he's leveling up. Where did that come from? And then he just goes back to being Oso for another 40 minutes and doesn't really look at the rim. So that's kind of where we are with him.
He's not a starter.
Just at this point.
The team is better with him on the floor, but part of it is that they figured out how to use him in ways that really maximizes everyone around him, I should say. But they still need a big guy to start and just be a big guy at center. And Mark Williams could have been helpful for that, even if, Oso ends up playing more minutes anyway. Having Mark Williams will be helpful. I guess we're probably going to get an update on Mark Williams soon.
Hopefully.
It's been a couple weeks, right? It was, 2 weeks that they were saying they were going to give us an update?
Might have been a little bit less than that.
I'm guessing after the road trip.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, I'm guessing after the road trip is when we're going to hear something on that. Tough. 2 more games on this road trip. Tough games for both of them, which is at Minnesota, which difficult no matter what, but on the second night of a back-to-back, difficult. Without Anthony Edwards, helpful if he doesn't play. And then at San Antonio for the last game on this road trip. Very long trip for the Suns. Began March 10th, ends March 19th. So very long trip for the Suns. Those games, as we all know, get more and more difficult as the road trip goes on. And we'll see how they respond in these 2 games. If they find a way to finish these last 2 with victories, that would be a massive W for the Suns if they finish the trip 4-2. But even going 500, I think would be, for what they're facing right now, even going 500 would be helpful.
In particular, Minnesota right now kind of need that win because you're only 2 games back from them in the standings. Well, I should say need that win if you want any hope of catching that team.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? I kind of feel like the Suns are kind of locked into 7 at this point. But
I wouldn't say locked in because there are still so many teams within only 2 or 3 games of them.
Yeah.
LA and Houston are playing right now. And then Denver and Minnesota are both within 2 games. And so if any one of those teams went on a random 4-game losing streak, you're right there. But the most likely thing to happen at this point is Phoenix stays in 7th, I think. I would say probably 60% chance they stay in 7th.
We've never covered a play-in game on this podcast.
I really don't want to. It would still be a success of a season if we have to go there. But I really don't want this team to be in the play-in tournament. I would love for them to get into 6th and have that guaranteed first-round series.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Should we talk about the state of the league?
Yeah, we got a topic today. Shams Charania gifted us a topic. The NBA is voting on expansion. This is the most telegraphed thing, right? There's been a lot of rumors about this. In fact, Matt Ishbia has even spoken on the record about his plan to vote in favor of this. The owners all have to vote on expansion, but it's essentially saying, hey, do you want like $500 million, or whatever it's going to be per owner? And the answer is going to be yes, I think. And that
can we get 2 extra expansion teams, but 10 fewer regular season games, and then the money washes out for everyone, so that there's none of this complaining about we can't shorten the season at all.
I don't think
we have to live with this number of injuries because we would sacrifice money.
I don't
if
think
they add 2 more teams, they wouldn't sacrifice money.
I don't think the NBA owners are voting in favor of expansion in order to keep the same amount of money that they already have.
You are right.
I think they want more.
Human beings are predictable.
Yeah. But, it does mean that new teams are coming likely as early as the 28-29 season is what we're hearing, based on Shams Charania, what he said in Las Vegas and Seattle, which means, well, first of all, I guess we have a lot of things to talk about with this. It means that at least one team is moving east. Either Minnesota or Memphis are the obvious targets to move east here. And that means that Las Vegas and Seattle will have teams. The Supersonics will obviously be back. A new team in Las Vegas will be here. Everyone is debating what could potentially be the name of that Las Vegas team. Do I have an opinion on that? No, I don't. Do you have an opinion on that?
The Las Vegas team, what should their name be?
Yeah.
The broke-ass degenerates? I don't know.
The degenerates is good. I don't mind that.
Yeah, I don't know. They're gonna come up with something lame. I've done my spiel on Las Vegas before because, like you said, we've been talking about this for years that this was an inevitability. The Sonics, obvious. I just wish Las Vegas wasn't being rewarded. That city sucks, and I'm sorry if you're from Las Vegas or live there.
Yeah, are we gonna lose like Suns fans that live in Las Vegas or Seattle? They're gonna leave this listening to this podcast and just become fans of the Supersonics.
But that's the thing. People from Las Vegas are I don't know. Are they mostly transplants? Or are they people who were born and raised in Las Vegas and really feel an attachment to Las Vegas?
It's probably like Phoenix, which is a mixture of both. Phoenix has a lot of transplants too, so I can't talk shit about that. Let's start here. Memphis or Minnesota?
Phoenix.
Which
I think Phoenix should move to the Eastern Conference. If Matt Ishbia bribed Adam Silver with $1 billion, could we get Phoenix moved to the Eastern Conference? Would you want Phoenix moved to the Eastern Conference if you could get it?
I mean, yeah.
Keep in mind, you'd have to factor in that extra air travel for every game because unless you have a better idea to physically
every other team would too that's playing
unless
Phoenix.
You want to physically move the city of Phoenix to replace it with where Minneapolis is.
No.
It would be fun.
Put us on
it would be fun to be in the Eastern Conference. I would love if Minnesota would go to the East and then we get 2 weak expansion teams in the West. I think that would really go a long way for balancing out the conferences. Some would argue that, hey, the East is already in a really good place and is equal to the West. That's not true. I'm sorry. It's just not true. And I think, moving Minnesota east would go a long way.
It's the conversation about which team should move east is interesting because you look at a map and you go, well, obviously it's Memphis. That's the team that should be there. Minnesota's in such a weird place of the map that they're so much closer to all of the Eastern Conference teams because not only are they pretty far east compared to the rest of the Western Conference teams, they're also very far north compared to the Western Conference teams, which are just sort of centered around the southwestern area of the United States almost exclusively, going up the West Coast, whereas the Eastern Conference teams have a lot of teams in the Northeast. So they're actually closer to a lot of those teams, closer in a way than Memphis is to some of them. But it seems to me that the likelihood is going to be Memphis. But if you want it to be Minnesota, it's just because of Anthony Edwards, right? Because you're thinking another 5-6 years of Anthony Edwards on that team potentially.
Yeah, of course. And Minnesota is far from the team that scares me the most in the West for the future. You're still going to have to deal with potential dynasties in OKC, San Antonio. Minnesota's kind of far down the list, but all of these things swing the pendulum one way a little bit. And it would just be good. The Eastern Conference, historically, let's be honest, just has a lot of fuck-ass franchises.
Yeah, I mean, badly run franchises. Yeah.
They have a lot of, there you go, there's a better, more PG word for it. A lot of really poorly run franchises that aren't particularly concerned with winning or just really bad at it. I don't know. I mean, like, for a long time, the Knicks were really bad at it. I guess they've got it together now. The Nets, I guess the Wizards are trying now, but like, will they succeed? You know, they acquired Trae Young and Anthony Davis for next year. You have Chicago, how poorly run Chicago has been for 10 plus years. Charlotte, I guess, is good maybe for the first time in 10 years, but I don't know. There's so many question marks in the East, and I feel like we have Sacramento in the West, right? They're sort of everyone's resident laughingstock. But that's kind of it. So,
yeah, even Memphis. Like, that's what I was thinking about when I was thinking about Memphis versus Minnesota. Memphis has been pretty well run for a while. They're never like contenders, but they're usually pretty good. They really just kind of folded this season when they moved, what's his name? The short-armed guy, Desmond Bain. There we go. And found a way to sort of repivot and be sort of bad for a season, but normally they're pretty good. And now, of course, they've traded Jaren Jackson Jr. They're pretty much going all in on tanking, which if they move them east, it's like, all right, just another team doing that in the East. But, we got Utah here too, actually. That's the other team. But Utah is a team that could be good pretty soon if they really put all their chips into actually trying to be.
Everyone understands with Utah, I think, that like they're never going to be a free agent destination, but like I know we like to make fun of Utah and kind of the makeup of that state. Historically, they are a well-run organization that competes. They are often in the playoffs. Maybe not so much in the past even in the past 5-10 years, because they had a long run with Mitchell and Gobert. So I would not put Utah. They're certainly not in the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, Washington Wizards
category. Yeah, no, not even close.
The other thing that goes on with this is, of course, the expansion draft, and I think this is where the bulk of the conversation is going to be. Expansion drafts, for those who don't know how it works, because there are 2 brand new teams and you want to have some level of competitiveness for those new teams, the way it works is each team in the NBA gets to essentially mark 8 players as safe from an expansion draft. Everyone else is eligible to be picked by the new teams. They have a draft of picking players until they get up to a certain number. And then, of course, they get picks in the upcoming NBA drafts as well, which, by the way, devalues NBA draft picks a little bit as well. Although they will likely, we'll see what they end up picking. I don't know exactly where they're going to get.
Here's a question that I have for you actually about this, right? So, like, just the big question about this, everyone understands there's more money involved. And also, like, I think from a local fan perspective, probably both of us are on the same page about, do we personally want expansion? Maybe not, because, like, the Suns already haven't won one in our lifetimes. Now it's going to be 2 teams even harder, in theory. That's how I feel. Is that how you feel?
Yeah.
But
like, what are the chances that one of those teams gets a championship before the Suns?
If it happens, if it happens, what am I supposed to do but drink bleach, So, but there's also the question of, like, forget our personal local biases for a second. The league product. I think for years people have been saying the league's ready. There's enough talent for 32 teams.
It's a weird
Do you feel
time.
that way? Do you feel that way?
I did maybe 2 years ago. Now I don't.
But you're
know.
not sure? Why is that?
Well, I think there's so many bad teams right now. And it's an interesting time to say there's so many bad teams, because part of the reason there's so many bad teams is because there's a bunch of teams that are desperately trying to be bad. So it's kind of difficult to parse how much talent there is in the NBA. Not to mention how much talent there is just sitting. Anthony Davis, Trae Young, Jaren Jackson Jr., who does play sometimes and doesn't play sometimes, or Lauri Markkanen, same situation with him.
That's
the
sort of
Kings. You could quibble about the level of talent that the Kings have, but their players who you would call their quote unquote best players are often sitting or got surgery. So it's kind of difficult to look at all of that and say that they are. But the other thing too is injuries are up so much too that a lot of these guys, Kyrie Irving, another example of a player, just don't play because they're hurt.
Yes, this is huge to me. This is why I would plead with the owners to consider putting a little bit less load on the schedule if they are going to consider expansion at the same time. And I know you already said they're basically just not going to do that because they want more money. Okay, fine, whatever. But, like, I think in a fully healthy NBA, you take the 3 or the 200 best players or whatever, and yeah, there's enough talent for 32 teams. Over the past several years, especially, we're not even getting close to kind of those goals of like having, 80-90% of the best players out on the court at all times, right? Because a lot of guys are always injured. And so, yeah, I do question and wonder if this is going to dilute the product a little bit. I truly don't know the answer to it. Expansion has not happened since 2004. Is that right? The Charlotte Bobcats, I want to say, were the 30th team to be added. Am I correct in saying
right.
that? Or
that sounds right.
Okay. I'm going to say that confidently. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe that that was the last time expansion happened. I was a wee child. There are going to be a lot of NBA fans who are experiencing the expansion draft for the first time. That's exciting. And you say the goal is to make these teams competitive within reason, right? If I'm looking at that 2004-2005 inaugural Charlotte Bobcats team, who went 18-64, and I think probably another question I have, if anyone wants to look it up, since we don't have time to, the best record of any inaugural expansion team. I would be curious. Like, has anyone ever won 30 games in an 82-game season after their expansion draft? That would be pretty impressive to me, because usually, as you can imagine, drafting a team full of ninth men and a couple of draft picks is probably not going to be very good. Who's the best ninth man in the NBA?
It's probably who would be the ninth man on the OKC Thunder, I guess, probably, right?
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, let me look it up. I'll just look it up and see, because now I'm actually kind of curious. That's the team that if any team, is worried about the expansion draft, it's them, because they just sort of stocked their roster with a bunch of, draft picks and young guys that they want to develop over time. And they're one team that, just like you said about the Utah Jazz, they're not going to get a bunch of guys to sign there and choose to play. They need these young guys to actually play. Okay, so let's see. Per game, we'll just go by minutes per game.
Go minutes per game, yeah.
Isaiah Joe. And then Jalen Williams.
Jared McCain.
Actually, no, because Alex Caruso is even lower than that.
Alex Caruso and Jared McCain are 11th and 12th on this list. And honestly, those are two pretty good players you could get if you're Las Vegas or whatever.
Shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right, Prize Picks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, and every board that much more exciting. So don't miss this chance to get started on America's #1 app for sports picks. I love that Prize Picks offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Do you want to pick more on Anthony Edwards' points, 3-pointers, and assists? Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup, only on Prize Picks. So go ahead and download the Prize Picks app today and use code BLUEWIRE to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code BLUEWIRE to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it is good to be right.
The 2026 NCAA March Madness Men's Tournament is back, and it's guaranteed to keep you dancing every night. The biggest event in college sports is finally here, and TNT Sports has you covered from the opening tip to the final buzzer and everything in between. Keep up with all the heart-pumping, show-stopping craziness of March Madness across TBS, CBS, TNT, True TV, and the March Madness Live app as we march all the way to Indianapolis. And this year, the men's Final Four returns to TBS on April 4th and 6th. Catch all the clutch shots, big-time plays, upsets, Cinderellas, blue bloods, and more that keep you on the edge of your seat. You're not going to want to miss a second of the action, so tune in to the NCAA Men's First Four starting tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern on True TV and in the March Madness Live app.
But, of course, okay, to bring this back to a Suns lens, we're going to do a couple of exercises because, of course, we are anticipating that this happens. However, at the same time, we're anticipating that it won't happen until summer/spring of 2028, which is a full 2 years from now. The Suns roster will look different in 2 years. I basically guarantee it. I think the first exercise we can do, though, is just who would be 8 players you protect right now? If it was right now, theoretically. And we know it's not. But who are the best 8 Suns players right now? I think that's the first exercise. Because it's kind of interesting in that this team is really weird. And I think we potentially could come up with different answers. Do you have a list for your top 8 guys?
I didn't make a list. I thought we could do this one just sort of
ad hoc.
Yeah.
We could do that.
I mean, there's a few obvious guys, right? You put Devin Booker is an obvious one. I would say Dylan Brooks, Grayson Allen, Colin Gillespie,
Jalen Green.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah,
yes.
right?
Yes, Jalen Green. Oh my goodness.
I don't know. There's some
You were hesitating
value
for a minute there? Oh, no. We're going to protect Jalen Green.
What do you think you could trade? What do you think you could trade Jalen Green for right now?
It's not the question.
No, that is a question.
That's not. I choose to not answer that question.
The question is, how valuable are these guys? And if the value is another bad contract, then sometimes getting rid of contracts are actually more valuable. Now, I'm not saying you don't. I'm not saying you don't.
Jalen Green has not played to a level where getting rid of him would make more of a difference than keeping his scoring potential on a team that is hurting for scoring potential.
Hurting for scoring potential, of course. But like what I'm saying is, I think the conversation of yes, he's a guaranteed keep safe is actually probably true from the perspective of the guys who traded Kevin Durant for him and want to have some sort of value from it. But if you're actually having like a sort of cutthroat style conversation about what you should or shouldn't do in this scenario, I don't think it's as obvious as you just made it sound. That's all. Because the value is
has to be there.
I think you're probably right. So what's that, 6 guys?
No, that's 5.
Okay.
So you've listed Booker, Brooks, Allen, Gillespie, Green. So, okay, let me do it like this. You just listed 5 guys. Notably, before we even get to, I think Mark Williams is a conversation, but they've made 4 draft picks in the last 2 years, and already you can only keep 3 of them.
Yeah.
So out of Oso Ighodaro, Ryan Dunn, Rasheer Fleming, and Kaman Malawach, you're cutting one of those guys.
Yeah, and
not necessarily, right?
We also didn't list Royce O'Neal, who's an important part of this team, and if you leave him off, you probably lose him.
I think you clearly would not protect. All due respect to Royce, I don't think you would protect Royce O'Neal.
Then you'd have to be okay with him being gone.
Yeah, sure.
That's just the conversation you have to have, because if you're starting a team and you're trying to put together some sort of veteran to keep the team together, Royce O'Neal is a guy that if you're a GM of, Las Vegas or Seattle, you're going to consider him.
Mm-hmm.
So, of the rookies, we'll say right now, probably we're picking of the young guys, everyone but Ryan Dunn, right? Kaman Malawach. I hate to say it like this, but Fleming and Oso, right?
Mm-hmm. I think
and
so.
And then Ryan Dunn's off the list.
And then
Ryan Dunn
you're exposing Ryan Dunn, and the question is, would he get picked in a draft if the draft were today? I don't know. I'm not sure.
The pool of players that you're looking at later on, because Jordan Goodwin's not on that list either, so Jordan Goodwin could be picked, and then you have
Mark Williams,
Haywood Highsmith, Mark Williams. Yeah, these guys could be gone right away. And
there's a lot of good players.
There are a lot of good. The Suns play a lot of guys, so there's a lot of guys that are important to this team, and that's I think why the conversation became really interesting when trying to figure out who you would pick. And I think it's going to be fascinating. By the way, once I don't know how public everything is. Like, do we just get to know who the pool of players is, and everyone just gets to get 2 weeks of content out of that? Because I hope so. I would love to do a podcast where you and I are drafting teams from the pool of unprotected players that are just out there available to be picked by these brand new teams. I would love to do that. So I hope we do get to know that information. But I could also see a world where the NBA is like, nah, let's not do that. Teams don't want it. Like, do you want Mark Williams to know that Brian Gregory said no? Not really, right?
Not really.
I don't want him to know that.
The other thing that's important to note is when this actually happens, the players that you will be eligible, or the players that will be eligible for you to protect, will be less than we're currently listing, because it's going to depend on who's an upcoming free agent. Specifically, like, no, I think either restricted or unrestricted free agent, right? Like, I don't think you will be able to actually protect any player who's on an expiring contract because you haven't extended them for that season yet, right? So you have no valid right to, for lack of a better word, ownership over that player's, future. So, it's going to depend. This is why it's hard to have this conversation right now, because we have to be thinking ahead to actually whose contract is going to be ending in the 27 to 28 season. That's going to kind of throw a wrench into it. But
did you do that? Because the other thing you and I did.
I did not do that personally.
No, because I don't think it mattered in the context of this conversation. Let's say there's a world where this entire team is the same team we have in 2028. Obviously, that's not going to be the case. There's probably 3 of these guys that are under contract that far into the future. But let's say there is a world where we have the entire same team. So what Sam and I did separately is I listed 10 players. Did you do 10? I can't remember if we decided.
Yeah, I did 10. I figured, because we're only talking about protecting 8 in general. We know that the roster is not going to be entirely the same in 2 years anyway. Let's power rank. This is a version 1 power ranking of the top 10 guys in 2028 based on guys who are currently on the team.
That's right. So we essentially just said rank the 10 players how good these players are going to be in 2028. Rank the 10 best players that the Suns currently have.
Some combination of, and this is what I couldn't really figure out. First of all, this is a really hard exercise, and we'll revisit it like later in the year. Like
very hard. Yes.
We'll revisit it in late 2026, so like 6+ months from now, to see if it's changed at all. And then again before, we'll do it a couple times before this expansion draft actually happens. What I couldn't wrap my head around was, like, am I ranking these guys based on how good I think they'll be in 2028? Or am I ranking them based on how valuable I think they'll be in 2028, which is a different question, because that implies some guys are going to be at the end of their careers / prime. Some guys are still going to be beginning their primes, right? So I think I tried to keep that sort of stuff in mind. It's some combination of the two. But yeah, I have a list of 10 players. I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Same, dude. It was hard. In fact, if you're listening to this right now, pause the podcast. Do it yourself. Just go through and try and rank which players you think will be the 10 best players or the most valuable to what the Suns are trying to be.
If you're driving right now,
yeah,
if you're on the highway,
yeah,
put your car in park right now. Write out 10 players on your phone.
That's right.
Do you want to start or should I?
Well, okay. Let's just kind of go back and forth here. Who's the number 1?
No. We're starting from 10.
We're starting from 10.
We have to start from 10. It's more fun that way.
Okay. I put Jordan Goodwin.
You put Jordan Goodwin number 10. Jordan Goodwin did not make my list.
I kind of thought that would be the case.
Yeah.
Jordan Goodwin will be 29, I believe. I'm going off the dome here. Let me actually check their ages.
That's fun to think about, because it is fun to think about, like, what if in 2 years Jordan Goodwin, A, is still on the Suns on some sort of long-term deal, and B, what if he got better somehow?
Yeah, he'll be 29. He'll be turning 30 that upcoming season. He could get better. He's been awesome, and he'll be still in his prime. Like, I think guys are kind of in their prime till like 31, 32. And, or guys that are smart and strong can be good even longer. And look, it's number 10. Who's your number 10?
My number 10 is Ryan Dunn.
Fascinating.
Is he on your list?
He is.
Okay, cool. This is not where I wanted to put Ryan Dunn. Ideally, I would have him much higher than this. He has had a rough second season in the sense that he's kind of being cut out of the rotation at the moment. And at this time, when this expansion draft will take place, theoretically, in 2028, Ryan Dunn would be entering restricted free agency, so actually probably wouldn't be eligible to be protected anyway. But this is sort of a hedge on the idea that I think anything is still possible for Ryan. He could, you don't give up on a guy after 2 years. I think he could be a much better player in 2 years who is consistently in the starting lineup, and it's kind of clicked for him finally offensively and defensively. Or I think he could effectively be out of the NBA right? So I think that kind of all averages out to putting him 10th on this list. But it's not where I wanted him to be. Can I ask where do you have Ryan Dunn on your list?
Next.
Okay, you have Ryan Dunn number 9.
I do. Yeah. I have Ryan Dunn number 9, and I think this could be wrong. You know, if we're thinking about it as guys who are protecting and not protecting, like this would be us saying that essentially that we would not protect Ryan Dunn even in 2 years, which could easily be wrong. I think it's important to remember at times that development is not linear, one of the favorite things for podcasters to say about young players, but sometimes you think that they're just automatically going to improve season over season, but it's often like little mini leaps that occur, and then guys just get better really quickly in one single off season. And, you don't expect it to be quite like that, but that's the type of thing that can happen. We can come into this conversation a year from now, and it could be completely different on Ryan Dunn, and it could be worse, too. Like, it might actually be worse. If he doesn't develop, that's something that happens with guys all the time as well. I don't think Ryan Dunn's as bad as some people make him out to be this season, but I wouldn't say that it's been a successful sophomore season for him in any way.
I don't think he's been bad. I think other than the release of his 3, which is objectively much faster, and he's been capable of making more contested 3s that he didn't used to make, that's kind of the only improvement that I've seen in his game, year 1 to year 2, and that's a big improvement potentially, right? Like other things could lock into place and really pay dividends for him. That the fact that he sped up his release could pay dividends, but there hasn't been much else to my eye.
I think what happened with Ryan Dunn is Suns fans loved him so much last year because he was one of the only guys that played the way he did. And the Suns objectively just filled the team with guys who do that, and then he just fell so much lower on everyone's estimation because in comparison, relative to the rest of the team, he wasn't doing it the same way. And
because people are always just kind of fascinated in general with the shiny new toy, as I go through my list, you'll see that that's absolutely true with me as well. I'm guilty of it too. My number 9 is Mark Williams. Mark Williams, I think, is undoubtedly a talented player. I think he undoubtedly could get better from where he currently is. We often talk about the fact that he's still so young compared to some of the other players on this team. He's like 1 year older than Oso Ighodaro. He hasn't played that much in the NBA compared to a lot of guys. He still just kind of feels like a stopgap to me, is the vibe that I get. You know, he's perfectly competent for 24 to 26 minutes a night as a starting center. I really respect his rebounding. I really respect his finishing talent. He has a legitimate motor, which you can't always say about Suns bigs in the past. But I don't know how much higher on this list I could go for Mark Williams because, like, as we go down the list, a lot of other guys, it's like I'm thinking of ceiling with them, and I'm seeing like potentially a high ceiling. Maybe not like so high of a median outcome, but a higher ceiling. And I haven't necessarily seen that with Mark Williams. But where is Mark Williams on your list?
Or is he even there? Not.
He is not on your top 10 for 2028.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Okay,
I don't see it. I just don't.
Do you
want
to defend that?
I mean, the injuries are a big thing, right? So you never know. Now that hasn't really impacted him this season, but it's, and maybe it won't for the rest of his career. But there's just not one thing he does great.
I think he finishes. One thing. I think he's a great finisher.
I think he's a good finisher. I don't think that it's something you can count on with him consistently. I don't know
if he's a great finisher in the pick and roll.
Yeah,
but he's a great finisher in transition. How does that work? Because that's been true for him. His hands are good.
I just want to see one thing where I'm like, yeah, you can book that. Like, you can really count on that every single game. And even rebounding comes and goes for him. And, we really need him to be, if he was like an excellent rebounder, he would be in the rotation a little bit more. But he's not on my list, and I don't think I need to explain it much further. I'll tell you who my
number 1 on your list, Andre Drummond. You said you love rebounding.
Number 8 for me, Dylan Brooks.
That's my number 8 as well.
Yeah. This is entirely age-related, right?
Yeah, he's going to be 32. He's going to be 32 years old in 2020. What year did we say? 2028. But that's still a perfectly competent age, right? Like, especially for a guy who doesn't really jump much.
Yeah, you're protecting him.
Yeah, he's so jump shot dependent. I think Dylan Brooks has now upped his game this season, what he's capable of doing offensively. No reason to believe that he can't continue to be that guy 2 years from now. But he'll be 32. So, on the downward trend of his career for sure.
Yeah.
Anything else to say there?
It gets kind of interesting from here, I think.
Number 7. Yeah. Go ahead.
Jalen Green.
Your number 7's Jalen Green. Okay.
Yeah. What's your number 7? And then we can talk about him.
My number 7 is Grayson Allen,
Okay.
who is going to be in the same position as Dylan Brooks. He'll be 32 and like literally the same thing. A guy who I think has proven himself to be a very competent piece who can start in a pinch. Anyone who I have ahead of 7 or Grayson Allen and Dylan Brooks is because I'm thinking about like, what's their ceiling? Is their ceiling better than those guys? But I think Grayson's awesome.
Grayson is just above Jalen Green for me. Just
So
to
6.
put some context on that. But let's talk about Jalen Green. How much value is there in a guy who can score about 20 points per game, mediocre efficiency, and not create for other guys?
That's a really good rhetorical question for you to have. I'm not sure that I can answer it well.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's just a lot of guys who can do that. There's a lot of guys who can do that in the NBA. And Jalen Green has the ability of improving and becoming a better player. I will not take that away from him. But if that's what he is, you can find other guys that can do that relatively well. The thing that Jalen Green has that a lot of those other guys don't have is absurd athleticism for his size. And, if he finds a way to harness that in the right direction, he could easily shoot up this list when we do it the next time. I'm just not that high on the future of Jalen Green, and I never have been, so this is probably no surprise to anyone listening to this podcast. But honestly, I had him lower before. I had him 9th when my first draft of this, and I kind of moved him up a little bit, saying, you know what, I'm discounting his athleticism a little bit, and I need to give
Jalen
him a
Green
little bit
will
more.
be, how old is he right now?
He's 24.
23? 24?
Yeah.
So he will be 26 years old
Yeah.
at the time of this. And maybe his contract will be expiring. That will be the end of his player option.
Yeah.
So he will be
It's a player option, yeah.
maybe coming maybe coming off some sort of career year as he fights to prove that he's worth another $30+ million a year contract. Because he's going to have to earn it again, right? And I think to your point, that comes through not just being the 20 point per game scorer, because there are a lot of guys in the NBA who can do that, but through being an excellent finisher, creating for others, being a two-way guy.
Getting you the free throw line.
Yeah, I think there have been subtle signs of those things.
He can absolutely do it, yeah.
But yeah, it's going to take some time. I do not have Jalen Green 7th.
Okay.
But we'll get
let's
to him
talk
in a
about
little bit.
Grayson Allen too then. So Grayson Allen, I
Sure.
think, will also be 32, I think, or was it 31?
He'll be 32.
Shooting age as well. So I just put him higher than Dylan Brooks. So if he's going to be the same age as Dylan Brooks, but like can still have that sort of stroke from 3, there's just value in that, and there's going to be value in that consistently in the NBA over time. He's also, like size-wise, not tall, but like kind of big, thick, strong. And, that combination, it's just a good combination to grow old with. Like he is athletic, and he does rely on his athleticism, but like as that starts to wane, he can fall back on his shooting a little bit more, and there's just value there. So and I'm guessing that's why you had him where you had him, which he could have easily been off this list for some people.
Yeah, no doubt.
So who is your 6?
So your 6 was
Allen.
Grayson.
Yeah.
My 6 is Oso Ighodaro.
Okay.
What is he for you?
5.
5. Okay.
Yeah.
So far, not too many like stark differences between us. Oso Ighodaro, I think for me, it's just like we are fast approaching being able to say that this guy's just a lock to be a solid NBA player for 10 years. The question is
How good?
ceiling.
Yeah.
You even said it actually. You didn't know that we were going to talk about this or him in this way specifically, but you said it in our earlier conversation about like he's not a starting center. One day he might be.
Yeah.
But-
or power forward, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, but he needs to bring something else to the table that he's not bringing right now in order to get there, because right now we can tell he's like this supercharged role player who is struggling to really justify his value as a starter.
He's got to be 12, 13 points a game to be a starter. Like he can have low scoring.
If you're going to play 35 minutes and you can't get me to 12 points, then yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah. And like 10 points is a problem for him right now. So,
Right.
But his defense is like, it's like unteachable how good the heights he can reach defensively. and like the way that he uses his brain defensively. He had 8 assists tonight against Celtics. Some of them, there's those cheap assists, but he's
Jokic
also a pretty
assist.
good passer too.
That's me
Jokic
trolling.
could do it all, but the defense is just something that's really, really difficult to teach, and I think for him, shows up with a 3 next year. Even if it's a 34% 3 that has some room to grow, he could be a lot higher. Then he becomes a little bit more Draymond Green-like.
I would love to be underrating him on this list, putting him at 6 now, and then he just shoots up it for the next 2 years. But he's got a ways to go.
Yeah.
Your number 5 is Oso, so it's my turn again.
Yeah.
My number 5 is Colin Gillespie.
Okay.
Where is he for you?
You'll see.
Number 1. Let's go. Okay.
Number 5 for me is Rasheer Fleming.
No, your number 5 is Rasheer Fleming. Okay, cool. So
or is that 4? I'm up to 4. Sorry.
You're up to
Oso
your number
was
4.
5. Yeah.
Oso was 5. Okay, my 5 is Colin Gillespie. Your 4 is Rasheer Fleming. Cool.
Colin Gillespie, are you just... I guess this is a question. Maybe we'll save it for when I talk about Colin Gillespie. This is a question of what you think his ceiling could be. Right? He'll be 20,
Yeah, I'm worried. Are you going to have him number 2?
He'll be 29
Okay.
at that moment. And that's
Yes.
just a question of just how could he be when he's 29 years old. I think this is an interesting thing to project how good he'll be at 29 because it's not a normal NBA 29.
No, it's not. And, you just talked about it with Grayson Allen, but shooters age well, and Colin Gillespie, if he's anything, is a shooter. So I think he'll be able to lead an offense. Well, no, scratch that. I think he's capable of leading an offense sometimes, not as the guy, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't have him number 5. But I think he can do it for stretches of time if you need him to for 3 or 4 minutes at a time. I think give him another 2 years, and that's certainly possible. I don't know that his finishing is ever going to be in a place. Right now, he gives you nothing at the rim. And I just, if that's how he is at 27, I don't really foresee it being any better at 29. So I think Colin's ceiling is a little bit limited by that, but he's an absolutely excellent shooter. I don't feel like you're giving up anything on the defensive end by having him out there, even though he is a little bit on the shorter side. So, I hope he sticks around as a Sun for a long time.
Okay, so 4 for me was Fleming.
Mm-hmm.
4 for you?
My number 4 is Jalen Green, who you had at 7.
Okay. That's right. Okay.
And that's just my acknowledgement of Jalen. I understand everything you're saying.
No, you have a fair argument for where you put it.
About the value proposition. That's, for me, number 4, it's just my acknowledgement that this guy could ascend to a height that, with his package of athleticism and difficult shot making is really tough for other guys to meet.
I think that's fair. I still think I think that's fair. Fleming, and I'm guessing, I guess we'll see. But Fleming is going to be in this top list of players for you. But, Fleming, for me, it's all there right in front of you right now. It's just about how it develops and how high those heights get. He had one almost steal, where he poked it away today that I was just like, man, there's just not a lot of guys that can do it like he can because of his length. So we're up to the top 3?
Yeah.
Number 3 for me, Kaman Malawach.
Okay. My number 3 is Rasheer Fleming.
Rasheer Fleming.
Number 2?
Colin Gillespie.
Number 2, Colin Gillespie. My number 2 is Kaman Malawach.
Okay.
And then number 1 for both of us.
Devin Booker. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
It would have been
Nigel Hayes-Davis.
pretty funny if you said Kobe Bryant, though, after I thought you would at least say it.
I almost snuck him in at number 10, but I was like, I can't do it.
Okay, so Colin Gillespie, here's the thing. Colin Gillespie above Malawach. Probably wrong. And something I considered changing before we started talking today. But I think the question is, Malawach, I think the development is still going to be relatively slow roll for him. Now, he will have times where he is absolutely peaking, and it will be very, very exciting. Whether it be on the Suns or not at that point, I think will be kind of an interesting thing to figure out. Colin Gillespie, let's say his ceiling is 18 point per game, perennial 6 man of the year candidate. That is 62% true shooting. Is the value of that better than like an average starting center? Like a guy who sort of averages out as an average starting center with Malawach,
What were
who
the
has
numbers you
peaks
just-
that are really good.
What were the numbers you gave for Colin?
18,
true shooting
18 points a game on 62% true shooting. Something like that.
with reasonable defense, 5 assists.
With
6
reasonable
assists.
defense, 5 assists, 1 turnover a game.
That's like Fred VanVleet, maybe a better shooter.
Yeah.
Is
But
right-
Fred
is that
VanVleet's a
decent-
starter.
Yeah,
and Colin
okay.
Gillespie might be the starter. Like he might still be that. In fact, I think
Yeah,
the
I think
Suns,
Colin
if they had-
Gillespie. I
if-
think there's a world where Colin Gillespie is the next Fred VanVleet, who was a second round pick. By the way,
yeah,
I think,
100%.
right?
Like if you got Brian Gregory a little bit drunk at a bar and gave him some of that truth serum, if you will, and we're asking him the future of this team, is it Jalen Green or Colin Gillespie at point guard? I think you might say Colin Gillespie, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's possible. So what's the question? Would I rather have Gillespie?
No, I
being that,
think
like solid starter or Malawach being what?
it's a question of what the value would be at the time. Because to me, I was ranking these guys based on how good I thought they would be in that moment, not projecting how good they would be in 2028 moving forward. Because I think Malawach,
Okay.
I think you could put him higher. But in the way that I think Colin Gillespie will probably still be a better player than Malawach in that season, that's likely.
Yeah, that's
to me.
fair. No, that's totally fair. I interpreted it, I think, more as I was ranking of just hoping, this will be Malawach going into year 4, but then you also have up to maybe 5 more years of team control, and maybe in those 5 years, that's where he
and that's
hits his
fair.
prime.
And the other thing I'll say about Colin Gillespie, it's possible that what he's doing right now is the best he'll ever be.
100%.
Like it's
100%.
definitely not guaranteed that he's going to get better than he is right now. He's 26. First of all, start there. He's 26, so he's only gonna be 2 years. He'll be 2 years older. Yeah, he'll be young still, relatively young, probably 20. I think he turns 29 in that season, the 28-29 season. So it's not guaranteed he's going to get better, but he's got the brain, he's got the effort, he's got the shooting, and he is good at creating for others. And just that type of stuff is really valuable. Like I'm just saying he's good at basketball. So of course we're talking about projecting these guys and how good they're going to be. I picked the guy who has all the skills and
Who's currently good
who
at
doesn't have a
basketball.
ton of miles on him compared to some of these other guys.
versus Malawach, who is not currently good at basketball.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid, for the record, in his 3rd season was averaging 28 points and 14 rebounds a game. So if Malawach is averaging any less than that by the end of year 3, I think
Bust.
we can officially call him a disappointment. He still has a ways to go, but it's just a hedge on his potential. I don't know. It's
it would have been defensible to put him second, and yeah, it's absolutely defensible to put him second. Like you could even sort of make
it's
the
just
case
hard.
that you could put him first or whatever. Like I know Devin Booker's obvious first, but like you could make the case if you were just trying to make an argument that like say he is the next Rudy Gobert. Say he is. And he could be Rudy Gobert for however long Rudy has been, 13 years, whatever it's, going on that for Rudy Gobert.
I think so.
That's a long time. And like there's
It's
a lot
just
of
hard
value
because
in that.
I felt a little bit silly even putting Malawach ahead of Fleming because especially in the past couple of weeks, I felt like Fleming's been the guy who's popped so much. But Malawach just has size that you can't teach, and we are just praying. We are just praying that it comes together for him.
And a good attitude, which matters too. Like, it's not DeAndre Ayton out there like dogging it and stuff. So good stuff. Let's go for. I'll do my list 1 through 10 now. Booker, Gillespie, Malawach, Fleming, Oso, Allen, Jalen Green, Brooks, Dunn, Goodwin.
Okay, and my list 1 through 10 is Booker, Malawach, Fleming, Green, Gillespie, Oso, Allen, Brooks, Williams, Dunn. I think the biggest differences between us, so a couple guys
Williams.
changing out.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I didn't have Williams. I had Goodwin. You didn't have Goodwin.
Yeah, you had Goodwin. I had Mark Williams, and then we had Colin Gillespie a few spots apart and Jalen Green a few spots apart. But otherwise, just like very close.
There's a thing about Goodwin which is how I felt about PJ Tucker, where I was just like, this guy's going to be on a championship team one day. And you're just going to see him celebrating the championship for some other team or something, And I just like, it's
For
really
the Las
tough
Vegas
for me.
degenerates.
Yeah, exactly.
Could happen.
It's really tough for me to leave guys like that off of the list, even though they might cap out at like 6 points per game or whatever Jordan Goodwin is at this season. You know, they bring this sort of intangible value to the team that is hard to really quantify, but those guys are the guys that I love. So it's difficult for me to leave them off the list.
Okay, this was version 1 of this draft. I imagine we'll get more concrete information between now and the next time we do this. But how about we promise to do version 2? We will update these top 10s sometime before the end of 2026, right? Like late 2026 is the next time we'll do this.
That sounds good.
I'll try and hold us accountable to that.
That sounds good. All right, that's all we got this week. If you want to hear an extra podcast this week, join us on our Patreon, patreon.com/The Timeline. Extra podcast every week for only $6 a month, and you can join our Discord for as low as $3 a month as well. Anything else, Sam?
Discord talk this week will be on international relations, 30-minute podcast on World War III. No. We'll be talking about America and
how Canadians feel about it, apparently.
Exactly. Yep. So tune in.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Back soon.